Okay, so I meant to do this on the last video, and this is a full length or almost full length showing of me washing my hands before I start to cook. I work out in the lawn. I work in construction sites. I'm professionally a chef, yes, but I do a lot of outdoor work, and when I come from that outdoor work and start to cook, it's really important to clean up. And we'll have some side notes about hygiene and the importance of washing, and you'll probably be disgusted to hear some of the things that I have to say about that. But what I can say is that it is incredibly important to wash your hands properly and often. Don't sanitize them. Wash them. Learn how to wash your hands, you filthy pig. That's what I have to say about that. So I had been planning to cook a Korean spicy chicken stew. It's called Dakdoritang. It means literally like cut up chicken. And I decided while I was working outside setting up garden boxes for myself that I wanted to do a smoked chicken chili. So going out to the smoker and gonna fire that up. We have it's a little bit dirty, but you clean your smoker right before you use it. It's easy to just brush this down, no big deal. And I'll scrape the bottom tray out eventually, but it's not actually that bad. So I've worked professionally as a pit master. I've done some barbecue. When we throw something on for kind of a normal barbecue smoke, we want to shoot for about a 275. Your temperature for proper smoke falls between about 225 and 300 to 325 at the very, very hottest. That's really hot for barbecue. Additionally to cooking the chicken, I'm eventually going to throw my peppers and onions on here and give them some smoke. The development of, well, the smoke flavor on those vegetables is going to do two things. One, throwing them on the smoker is kind of going to act as sweating the vegetables. And two, it's going to build another layer of complexity in the chili. So the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. So we don't want to, if you throw raw vegetables into a pot of water, you get a really boring taste. Alright, so here I'm getting my chicken. I got bone-in chicken thighs. It's best for stock. And I have a spice rub. I made a kind of adobo spice rub. It's not traditional by any stretch of the imagination. It's really it's kind of based on what's supposed to be an adobo, and also kind of based on what I have in my cupboard, which my spice pantry is fairly large, and so sometimes I'm like, well, I have these things, and they'll work with what I want to use, and so I'm going to use them up. I'm going to make a little mix, and we're going to go heavy. Now, I never mix salt in with my spice mixes. You want to salt your meat separately and then put the spices on. That way you're not relying on your, yeah, that's what I look like, and you're not relying on your spice mix to season the meat. We want to kind of season the meat visually before we add the spice mix, and then we can put the spice mix on however heavy we want to. And I had a lot of things to say when I was shooting this, and I also stupidly decided that it would be nice to listen to music while I was working. So while I'm shooting film on my phone, oh, that matched up. I was also playing music, and the pickup on my phone, actually the audio pickup, is really good, which means that you can hear the music really well and you can't hear a thing that I'm saying, or I can't hear a thing that I'm saying. And so all the thoughts that I have that I'm talking about, I have no idea what I'm saying, because this is 2 days later when I'm editing it. Part of it was I was talking a little bit about the beans, and so I was going to use black beans because I didn't know that I had white beans. But because I was making this spur of the moment I didn't soak the beans the day before. And hey, I didn't do that with my minestrone either, which is also why I was going to reach for black beans, because they're the easiest thing in the world. You don't have to soak them. But if you spontaneously decide to cook something like chili and you want beans in it, just get the smallest beans that you have. The bigger the bean, the more it needs that pre-soak. The smaller the bean, the more you can get away without a pre-soak. So I opted to use navy beans, which I love. I think navy bean soups, like a navy bean and ham soup is fantastic, but in this case it's going to be navy bean and chicken chili, and it's really great texture for chili. This one ended up being more like a soup than a stew, but we could have added more beans and more chicken and made it stewier, but the texture is actually really nice, and the beans cooked up well. When you spontaneously change your mind, don't be afraid. Think through what you're doing, and if you're using a bean, you want to reach for the smallest bean that you have. They're going to cook the most easily. So anyways, last time I did a lot of knife work skills. We did mirepoix of onions and carrots and celery and all that. And this time, because we're going to throw them on the smoker, well, we're just going to do we're going to cut them in half, clean them, and that's the majority of the prep work for this. This is a stupidly easy thing to do. So I was working for almost 10 hours on my garden boxes out in the sun, and it was a very full, it's the first sunburn of the year kind of working day. So I came in, I didn't want to work hard, and well, I didn't. Well, I don't think I worked hard anyways, and I made it easy. So we had another topic of conversation that I can hear tidbits of, where if you watch professional chefs talk on a regular basis, they talk about, especially if they're French trained, they talk about you never use water. You always only use stock. And I love stock. I love making stock. I think the process of skimming stock and getting the most perfect clarified stock is actually really relaxing, and I have a freezer that is full of stock. However, when I'm cooking something like this is a rustic stew. It's a U.S. food, right? It's American style. But traditionally you wouldn't use stock in a chili. But that's not because we're not cooking well. We're building our stock as we cook, if we know what we're doing. And so when we, in this case, smoke the chicken, you don't have to use a smoker. You can sear off your chicken and caramelize, or get Maillard reactions on that, and you can roast your vegetables in the oven instead of putting them on the smoker. But as I put this stuff on the smoker, it's developing flavor, it's developing depth of flavor. And then when we build and we start making the stew, the way that we do that, and with the bone-in chicken thighs as well, we build the stew as if we're making stock. So in spite of the fact that we add water to the stock, we're building a base, which is the same as using stock. So here we've added the vegetables to the smoker. The chicken's already been on there for about 40 minutes, I think. And normally if you're smoking chicken thighs and collagenous dark meats, they're probably going to take 1.5 to 2 hours to smoke, and the vegetables are going to take significantly less than that. So my chicken, after about 1.5 hours on there or so, is at about 155 degrees ish. We don't need it to cook to 165 degrees. Don't ever think that you need to bring chicken to 165 degrees if you intend to do anything with it. If it's dark meat and your goal is to pull it off the grill and go competition barbecue, yeah, take it to 200. But if you're gonna put it in stew, you're really just looking to put smoke on it and get it tender enough to pull off the bones. So 155, no problem. We want this to stay juicy, especially because we know it's a reheat. I'm going to be heating this up for a week and having it for breakfast, having it for lunch, having it for dinner, any day that I don't want to cook. So, and then we can see the peppers and the onions, they've definitely taken some color. They've broken down a little bit, they've softened up, and we're going to get good flavor and texture out of those vegetables. Okay, so back to my garlic crushing. I'm pretty sure what I remember talking about at this point is that you don't have to buy peel-on garlic. In fact, it doesn't really do you any favors. It's, especially as far as home cooks are concerned, a total waste of time to peel garlic. You can buy garlic that's peeled, and if you have issues with it sprouting before you can use it, I'm going to do some movies on confit garlic, or how to preserve garlic. Confit literally means preserve. Part of peeling garlic for me is kind of like staying on point and being good at what I do. I want to be able to work with anything, and I don't find the process to be difficult or annoying all the time. When I get into doing like 3 or 4 heads of garlic for something, I'm ready for peeled garlic. I'm ready to be done peeling garlic. Last time I did nice little slices. This time I'm going to do a really rough slice. We're just making chili, and so it's a different knife technique, and we're going to get into kind of a two-handed chopping technique. It's a little bit different, but first we want to do a nice slice on the garlic as much as possible, and kind of as fine as we slice the garlic is as fine as we're going to get. But then we're going to walk back over it and we're going to do a really thorough chop. And then, so this is professional. This is done regularly in a lot of restaurants, and there's a place for it. It's not always perfect. If you're in a super French restaurant, we would cut a brunoise, which is way different than this, but this is essentially, I mean, you can also just throw it in the food processor and be done with it. It's the same difference, but it doesn't hurt to know how to do it by hand with a knife. Cooking by hand is relaxing and it's good for you. Part of cooking is that you shouldn't be stressed out. But part of it is you should be willing to put the time into it and do it this way. I do a lot of things by hand just because I like the process. I could pull the food processor up and have done that in 2 seconds. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not going to affect the cooking. It's not going to affect the flavor. You could just puree all this stuff and then sweat it in the pot. It'll still be good. But you do get a good texture by doing this. You get to control your texture a lot more by doing things by hand. So that's really the upside of doing things by hand, is just a little bit more finesse and control. I like the process, and I also look for a texture when I'm cooking, and so I cut things specifically, even though, you know, I've been working for 10 hours today and I don't want to work hard, and I'm not. If I was working in a restaurant, I'd cut way faster than I am here. I'd be way more goal-oriented and getting everything done, but I'm not, because I don't want to stress about it. And that's part of it, is when you cook, if you're in a position where you feel like you're in a crunch for time, it happens. You know, you got people coming over and the food needs to be done, or else everyone's going to be sitting around waiting. You got to get it done, and there are ways to do that, like I said. But for the most part, give yourself the time to do it without being stressed. There is no reason to stress about this. And if I got my pot too hot, I threw out the oil, I rinsed it out, kind of cooled it down, put it back on, adjusted the temperature, got it going. We're gonna sweat the garlic. Well, we're gonna take the garlic, to the very, very light side of golden brown. And I go over this very, very specifically and in detail in the minestrone recipe, which I just put up last week. And then we add in the peppers and the onions and give those a real light sweat. I mean, they're already basically sweated, but we want to get the garlic turned up. And we'll break them down just a little bit more by sweating them. And then we're going to add in the beans. And in this case, like I said earlier, we didn't pre-soak the beans. We're picking beans kind of at a whim. And so what I did was I put them with about, I don't know, 2 quarts of water on low heat for the duration of all the other prep that I was doing. And just let them go the whole time. So they had kind of a hot soak for about 2 hours in about 2 quarts of water. So I just dump all that with the water. It's okay. The white beans, navy beans in particular, are like a really clean light bean, so they're soaking water. It's not super, well, it's not dirty. I rinse the beans first anyways, but you don't, honestly, I would have liked to have picked up more starch, so kind of saving that that soaking water gives me a little extra starch. But anyway, so here I'm taking the bones. I already picked the chicken, got it ready, and I just want to break the bones and so the marrow can come out a little bit faster, and that's going to really enrich the cooking liquid for this chili. And it's just a quick, easy process. You don't have to do this, or you can leave the chicken whole with the bones in and stew the chicken longer, and the marrow will come out eventually. But for me, because I just want to make a rich broth without spending too much time, cut the bones in half so the marrow can just come straight out of them real easily. And I'm going to throw them into a sachet so I can just take no bone fragments in there whatsoever, and I can just pull that sachet out when I decide it's time to go, and it's done. And you don't have to do this, like I said. You can just, I mean, you don't have to add the bones at all. It's just me being particular, because if I have bones, I want all of the marrow and all of the collagen and all of the flavor that I can get. I paid for it, so I'm going to use it. Not wasting. If you have it, don't waste it. So that is how I approach cooking. Okay, so for my spices, I pulled out some basic stuff. I've got some chipotle, I have some Korean chili flakes, which are in conjunction with what I was going to do today. I have some of my adobo mix, which I will list the recipe for. It's really easy. A bunch of leftovers. You don't have to feel that bad if you don't have them all. Some ground black pepper and cumin. We got much of this is already in the adobo. The adobo has all of the dried garlic and onion that we want to use. So we're going to bulk it up. The thing about chili is it wouldn't be chili if we didn't have chilies, so we're going to add in extra chipotle and extra chili flake. I tasted it. It doesn't have any salt in it yet, so don't ask me about that yet. But the spice from the Anaheims and the Poblanos is really, really low, so I do want to bulk up the spice a little bit. Black pepper and some cumin. Cumin is the thing that makes most chili taste like chili. It's going to be chili powder and cumin, and you add that to canned beans and some meat, and you have the most basic chili that you can. I put my little sachet of chicken bones in there. We're going to bring this up to a simmer. If I'd been thinking better, I would have toasted off the spice mix before adding the liquid. That just is another way of developing flavor. You're not going to see, lost my sachet, see people toasting spices and doing stuff like that, but it does make a difference, and it is quite a lot better actually. So you end up with more. And Mr. Buddy has found the chicken bone that got onto the floor, and he is somewhat excitedly going after it. Huh, mister. Okay, so these beans are about done. That's really all we're looking for. It's a little bit thin, so on the soupy side, not as stewy, but it's good and ready to go. So what we'll do now that everything's done, let's go ahead and add in our chicken. Then we'll let that simmer for about just like 10 minutes to bring it together. Let everything get to know each other, and then we'll be good to go. Now, this is only about maybe a gallon and a half or so, so in all honesty, the 4 of us eating it will probably go through this in like 2 sittings. So let that go nice and slow now for almost even 20 minutes. Take the nasty tops off your green onions. If they're not that nasty, you can use them for stock later if you want to. Some of these are a little squirrely. And I'm just going to cut myself a little bit. For my chili. Smoked chicken, white bean chili. So when I talk about cooling things properly so that they don't go bad, this is what I mean by cooling them properly. This is a 2-inch hotel pan, so you don't want your liquid to be more than 2 inches deep, and you want to let it sit out. You can see the steam coming off of it, I'm pretty sure. Until it stops steaming, I'm going to let this sit on the counter for about 2 hours or so. I'm going to watch a movie while I eat dinner and relax after working the day, and then I'll put it in the fridge, and it'll cool significantly faster than if you were to put it into a deep container and put it straight in the fridge. So we don't want to raise the temperature of the fridge with the steam, and we don't want the food to go into the fridge hot, and we never cover food that is hot when it's in the fridge. So proper cooling.